just one of those games, and I spoke about it a little bit, but Ancient Apparition, it feels really good versus the Luna because it dissuades sort of that immediate satanic buildup. You don't feel super monstrous, and if you do end up fighting in a 1v1 versus the Medusa, you're gonna get hit by the Ice Blast, and it's just sort of a big problem that you constantly have to deal with. Where Infamous, they have this really good team fight lineup, but at the same time, I think just the strength of Hokori's lineup is really something to contend with. All of those heroes, I mean, Medusa Bristleback, you're going to need to be really clean, and if you ever use your abilities out of line, then Hokori are just going to either push you onto your side of the map, or they're going to farm and ignore you, and that's something that Infamous can't really do. They can't be ignored. They need to push down your buildings and get something going. So I'm glad that the tree's out of the game, because otherwise we'd get a repeat of the previous series, but I don't know. Hokori have got it. They've got the keys to the patch.
Looking pretty tough here. Meanwhile, Infamous in a position where Team 5 execution is going to have to be flawless, really. I mean, like you said, they can't afford to make even the slightest mistake right now. If they do manage to put it all together, sure, that Team 5 power is pretty impressive for them, but the slightest thing goes wrong, they take one sort of step out of line and it could all fall apart for them. So, is it possible? Absolutely, but it is already looking like a tough one. Hokori have just really put themselves in a fantastic position here, and we're not even through the draft. There's still another pick coming out here for both sides, but before that, getting through that final phase of bans. Hokori looking to the middle lane, Queen of Pain and Lina both being removed.
And it looks like Infamous, at the same time, they know that they need a 4. At first I thought the Lina ban might have been more 4s, but SD, that's a really good ban. That would have been really obnoxious for them. Just always get to save the person whoever gets cursed, but I mean, Hokori, it really feels like nothing they could pick could go wrong at this point. They just need a simple hero, pair up with the Mars, is able to set up for the spear. Setting up for the spear would be nice, but doesn't necessarily need to be that type of hero. But I'm assuming we'll just see a very simple hero like the Tusk, or maybe we'll see, I would stretch so far to say maybe even a Rubik, just because there's so many spells that you want to steal from the side of Infamous in this game.
The Rubik does make for an intriguing pick, but in terms of, how should we say, aggression, sort of being a more dynamic sort of hero, I do feel like something like the Tusk, as you mentioned, sort of plays into it a little bit more for them. If they are trying to sort of push for that aggression early, they could, at this point, really go in either direction. They don't need to feel boxed into anything, but they do need to maybe go a little bit early on this pick. 20 seconds on the clock. They do manage to get it in, and it will be the Rubik. So, a very nice call.
Just simple. It's a, if anything, it's a very hard lane for the Luna. The Luna does need to be careful if he ever walks up too far. As we see, these mega carries, they don't like to get pushed towards that enemy offlane tower. And if they do, then Rubik's perfect here for the punish. And in the scheme of the game, very solid. You have Ravage to steal, you've got Curse. You don't necessarily want to steal the coconut from Hoodwinked, but anything else, you'll be pretty happy. Even Scurry isn't the worst. It could be a lot worse. But now on Infamous, they need a mid laner, and they need something that is able to rotate. Good pick.
Okay.
Very good pick.
Pretty solid there in terms of really everything you need. Damage, gonna be there. Durability, teamfight setup, as you said, the ability to make those rotations as well. So, sort of ticking all those boxes for the side of Infamous. Don't really think there was much better for them in terms of just hitting every weak point in their lineup.
Well, and the Kunkka is definitely a hero that can sort of snowball. It's one of the heroes that we've really seen be the staple of South America. Other regions really don't play it as often or in as many roles as SA does. So absolute masters of their heroes. And even laning versus the Bristle will struggle slightly just because it inherently doesn't have the highest base armor. So he does need to be a little bit careful, especially if he's trying to dive in and out between towers, try to get as much farm as he can to not step on the Medusa's toes. But other than that, I mean, Hokori, they've got the staples of the patch. It's really going to be up to, does the fundamental lineup get to hit their timings and push down your objectives, or will Hokori just get their Aghanim Scepters and then start to roll on you? That's the big question of the game.
And we'll see how things go here. You mentioned earlier on, both of these teams upper division squads for that second season on the pro circuit, and Not a whole lot separating them in terms of the record, not really a whole lot that separated them in their head-to-head matchup. We mentioned earlier Hokori did get the 2-1 win there, so they were the squad that walked away with the victory, but it certainly wasn't easy. These two teams come into this one, I would say, relatively evenly matched. If we're looking maybe in terms of experience, Infamous are slightly ahead of their opponents on that front, but this is looking like a rather interesting matchup. At the end of the day, just going to have to see who can really execute better. It's going to all come down, I think, to really how well Infamous take these fights, and as you said, how quickly they can take control of the map. They need to win fights, they need to take the map in their own hands, and really try to shut down their opponents as quickly as possible. We'll see if they're up to the task, though. Game number 1 of this third best of 2 getting underway here. Hokori on the dire half of the map, Infamous on the Radiant, as we will go to work. We had a pause earlier on in our previous series. Are we good to go here?
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.
Looks like it. Okay. No issues to
You hear,
speak of.
you hear the voice lines, and then you know it's not paused.
Yeah, we're good to go when you get that spam. So, here we are. Game number 1, Infamous. Okay.
Dio scored.
We just had to jinx it, didn't we? We were so close, and then we decided to speak, and there it is. So there will be a pause after all. Just when you think you're safe. So, yes, indeed, as you said, a Dio scored issue, as Infamous have to wait this one out.
And it could be worse. We are in Peru. I'm not sure what that means for either of these teams. I think Infamous is based out of Peru, so I don't know if there is sort of a ping, but I guess we'll see in the second game whether or not there is a difference in choice. But I think this is one of the more interesting games to be played in the group stage. Like I said, they do have a history, and especially in this game, I just want to see KXY flex his muscles on the Kunkka. Kunkka's one of the few heroes that I feel like a lot of people could see forever. You always get the X-Torrents, you always get the ghost ships, and with the advent of people realizing that the Aghanim Shard is actually good, then this hero is very, very interesting, especially versus the less mobile heroes on the Hokori side, where the tidal wave will really push you around, and it'll make every single team fight sort of interesting and ebb and flow in a different way than we're used to seeing.
Yeah, that is a bit of a good point. A lot of people just kind of wrote off that tidal wave initially. I'm sure you had higher skill players initially who sort of saw the value in it, but the average sort of player looked at that and said, meh, it's neat but not great, but I mean, it's so valuable, especially in the middle of that fight. You can disrupt so much of what your opponents try to put together.
It's very similar almost to the Enigma Shard, where people didn't really value it. Why would you want something that pulled you into the black hole? And it just feels like you wouldn't even miss black holes. You would, if anybody was close, you'd still get sucked in at least a little bit. And with the change, the big change was just how far back to you in comparison to where you cast it would come from. It used to be 400 range, then they buffed it to 600, and then everybody realized, you just kind of push heroes out of the fountain. You kind of push heroes anywhere you want, so it's definitely one of my my new favorite shards in the game.
As we do get things back underway, but hopefully, after sort of talking up how good that shard is, we actually do get to see it. And KXY, I mean, if there's anyone that you're looking at in terms of the mechanics to make the most use out of it, KXY's got to be one of those players. This guy, he's run into a little bit of controversy. There's no getting around that. But at the end of the day, this is one of the best young players that the South American region really has to offer. So, very much excited to see what he does with the Kunkka in this game and how much of an impact he can really have for his team.
And at the same time, you have to be careful in the side lanes. If there's one team that can sort of get away with losing their lanes, it's definitely Hokori, because they have those later timings. You're able to sort of farm and make plays elsewhere, and that's where I wonder where Analog is going to really try and find his farm, and if he is going to end up stepping on the toes, because he's going to be eating a lot of those stacks. He's going to be taking a lot of space away from his team, especially if he does fall behind the Kunkka. So if KXY has a really good start, I think that is the first thing that could sort of unravel Hokori's lineup.
Right. At the end of the day, it still is greedy to run both the Bristle and the Medusa. If you're Hokori, you're hoping that Vitaly can kind of get away with that. I mean, your Mars doesn't need a crazy amount of farming priority to still have an impact, so the hope would be that Vitaly hits level 6 relatively quickly, starts making some moves, and he can just sort of create the space to get both the Bristle and the Medusa going. So he may not be the #1 priority in terms of farm or damage, but Vitaly's got a pretty vital role here to play. And if he can't do it, then Hokori's main 2 cores are going to struggle to sort of get themselves going early on. What's going on here? There's a slight tri-lane going on for Infamous, but I don't know if A is really going to stick around, or... well, maybe he will. Going in with the Arctic Burn, Lumiere in some trouble. They're not actually going to be able to get all the way in onto him, excuse me, but it's a nice bit of early damage coming through, forcing out a Tango, but Lumiere came to lane with 2 full stacks, so he knows that there's going to be some fighting in this lane.
And it's not the best play from Lumiere. He does skill up the mana shield just so he takes a little bit less damage, takes half of his mana instead, and it's just a common play you see with the Tidehunter. You're always able to get that additional minus armor damage, so it's very scary, especially with the Hoodwinked, to just get stuck up in the Bushwhack and then have 3 heroes hitting you with -2 armor.
Speaking of the Bushwhack, throwing it out there onto Gardic. Not a crazy amount of follow-up. The Hoodwink doesn't exactly hit that hard early on here, but this is going to be a relatively consistent form of harassment out from that Hoodwink. Obviously, Gardic can fire back with the Chilling Touch, but these 2 supports do have to be careful, and I feel like Gardic is going to have to be more on guard than his opponent, although as I say that, Lumiere going to get hit up by the Gush. There's no trees, though, for that Bushwhack follow-up, so it's just going to be a little bit of harassment, but they're starting to burn through that regen already. Talked about the fact that Medusa came to lane with 6 tangos. 3 of them have already been popped in the first 2 minutes.
And that's when Mariano will be able to take a little bit more space, and once they have a few more levels, the level 2 is the real big spike because you finally have the Acorn Shot, and that's when Gardic might need to be careful. And he doesn't have enough mana for the Acorn Shot, and he actually just got turned on.
Ooh, Gardic hits him up with the Cold Feet. Doesn't proc the stun, but it doesn't need to. It's in there for the slow and the damage. Lumiere turns around for the right clicks, and a bit of a mistake from Michael. Actually, more than a bit, he was well short of the mana he needed there for either of those abilities. So, getting a little ahead of himself there, unfortunately.
And maybe a little miscommunication. I saw Mariano had the Enchanted Mango, but instead nothing gets gone on. But, you know, what can you do?
Meanwhile, down bot, hey, that's not a great situation. Tried to pull out of that fight, but Vitaly not going to let him go. Long-range spear toss will get the kill. And that's going to be Hokori with back-to-back here to start us off. Although, as I say that, Ancient Apparition in some trouble up top. Gardic, though, once again able to get himself out of trouble. So, they get the first 2 kills of the game, and they keep their Ancient Apparition alive in 2 separate instances where, realistically speaking, he probably should have gone down.
Yeah, in this bottom lane, we did see the Rubik rotate. Make sure to pick up that Bounty Rune, and if anything, more cover on the mid lane is we're just going to see these 2 heroes really mirror each other and follow everyone around because Kunkin needs the creeps to do damage, and Analog wants to farm the small camp, so they're just going to chase each other around for the majority of this game up until the point where they can actually start killing each other, but until that point, it's interesting gameplay.
Strangest dance they're putting together here in this middle lane, but it's working out well for both of them so far. Last hit-wise, Analog leading all players at 22-18 on the board for the Kunkka. So it looks very strange, but it's working out for the most part. And meanwhile, in the side lanes, that Medusa still not exactly off to the start that you would prefer. 12-2 for Lumiere. Obviously, they've been able to find a couple of kills, or the 1 kill up in this top lane, so that is going to sort of make up for that a little bit, but you would like for Lumiere to maybe have a slightly freer time, but Mariano's just not going to let that happen. Jumping in with the Gush into the Anchor Smash. Michael, though, a little bit too slow and a little too far away.
And if anything, having to have Michael stuck in this top lane, he's not able to rotate for these water runes, whereas the Rubik has got a lot more time to rotate around the map. Now, A has been able to get a few pulls off, so Vitaly is a little bit upset in that regard, but this Kunkka, he needs HP, he needs to be able to stand up versus the Bristleback, whereas Bristleback, he can sort of ignore it, and he's got a few stacks for himself already.
That's going to accelerate what's already been a pretty solid start for the Bristle, so he will push his way forward, looking for that early Vanguard, and, well, it's a lot of physical damage early on from the Infamous side, so that Vanguard's going to be pretty damn valuable. As Michael, speaking of valuable plays, what is going on here? He and Gardic in a fight in the north side jungle. Michael wants to be careful, though. The Chilling Touch is there. One more hit from Gardic, and there it is. Oh, Michael just a little bit too low to win that one, as speaking of low, what is this? KXY and Analog. Okay. Playing with fire there on both sides. Analog, though, able to hold his ground. Elmisho, nice TP in to heal his teammate up with a salve. KXY does not have the same... Never mind. I was going to say doesn't have the same luxury, but here comes the Hoodwink. Gonna be
and I was watching that mid lane like a hawk because he was trying to do the play. He had the hit of the Tidebringer, and there's no way.
Analog should be fine here. It's a nice bit of damage, though, but shouldn't be enough. Analog.
He needed one more hit. I think
he's going to try and line it up. Nope, didn't go for it. Okay. Might have been able to get that hit in, but doesn't actually want to go for it, especially with Gardic TPing in. If you miss that hit, then you're out of position for the follow-up.
And definitely would have gotten punished there, but A has seen the stacks. They've gotten wind of what's going on here, and we'll have to see if the Kunkka, there might be a huge brawl based around him, and Analog just barely missed that rune, but it looks like these stacks are going to finally get farmed pretty soon here. A has set himself up to maybe steal some XP, but I'm not sure they can really give too many heroes to defend or fight any of these stacks. Actually scan him out.
Oh, Elmisho coming in. Does he have the telekinesis right now? Yes, he does, but he is going to hold it for as long as he can. And he's not making it out of that one. The spear even coming in at the end there just to help things out as the pushback comes through, and Analog is going to be able to find the kill. That is 4 straight now for Hokori, and they not only find that pickup, but they protect the stacks as well. Analog is going to be able to go to work here, presumably in the next maybe couple of minutes to try and take those.
I think he's afraid right now. He doesn't want to show without too much mana, so he might just get vision or get mana, let his Ancient Apparition take over, and that's one thing they've been incredibly consistent with, and maybe just the less pressure that this Luna Winter Wyvern lane can put out on the Mars, but Elmisho has just been able to stack for so long, and while Angel has had a pretty decent time, I feel like they've gotten so much more done on their side of the map.
Yeah, Luna, honestly, still in a pretty solid spot. Top net worth in the game, so Infamous are not entirely sort of lamenting some of these early deaths, but...
And here comes the farm.
Fun. Okay. That is not your side of the map. Elmisho not able to actually spawn him out in time, though. As okay. Gonna fire off a couple of hits there with the Arctic Burn, just in case, and... Well, now they're moving their way forward. Analog is going to try to take these stacks. You see Hokori bringing the reinforcements, though. You do not want to let this go without a fight, but the fight, well, it's coming their way. Mariano. There it is. Ravage will be deployed. They hit up the Rubik right on the edge there, so Elmisho is dropping low, but he's going to be able to get himself out. Infamous, though, may not be getting themselves away from that fight. KXY taken down. Analog now on the assault, but Angel comes in with that ult, and oh my goodness. Analog, that's a bait and a half right there as he jumps his way into it. Will be taken down, but Vitaly is still pushing. They get the spear onto Mariano. They're going to try to bring him down here. They need a little bit more damage, but they do manage to make it happen. Gardic will get the kill. Actually picked up both of the kills in that fight, and that is going to result in a 2-for-1 trade in Hokori's favor. It is Infamous's first kill of the match, though, so they get that 0 off the scoreboard.
And while they weren't able to really do anything except for steal some XP from those stacks, Angel absolutely needed him. Otherwise, that Bristleback would have just ended up killing A, and it would have been a much worse trade. And having his Mask of Madness, he will be able to farm a little bit more. But again, using Ravage, you don't have Curse available to you, so I guess you can't use that ability. But using these ultimates and not gaining objectives, it's the pitfall that they really need to be careful of, because they don't have those spells. They can't really sit behind this Luna or sit in front of this Luna and feel strong. And every second or every minute that this Hokori lineup doesn't need to be actively doing something, all of their cores can do so much with the farm that they receive.
Absolutely. Making space for really everyone, but Lumiere in particular on that Medusa, farming away in the jungle. Still a couple hundred gold back of Angel at this point, but you got to assume if he continues to sort of create this much space and buy this much time for himself, that is not going to be a situation that lasts for very long, as he is going after the stacked camps here too. So the efficiency for the Medusa is absolutely fantastic. This is exactly what you want right now, as Infamous going to be losing another. A taken down to the bottom lane. Vitaly gets the kill himself. There was an Ice Blast coming through, but it's a completely unnecessary one. Vitaly's got the kill all by himself.
And the longest ability really is just that arena. They can really just continue to be on the aggressive as soon as their abilities come back up, especially the Ice Blast. Ice Blast being a 40-second cooldown, it's one of the few spells in the game that has really never been changed, but does so much damage and is such a lethal spell. Even Elmisho could probably set up in a side lane and just maybe a Bristle cooling once or twice with an Ice Blast, and it's just a dead hero. and they're trying to make a play towards this Tidehunter, and maybe that would be a mistake from Hokori, but really, it feels like they need to wait for at least a few more levels, as he has, what, the works of an urn on the Kunkka, but other than that, KXY, we haven't really seen him be able to get that fight going that he wanted to. He had that slight skirmish mid, and he had the battle at the stack, but he lost his life in that engagement, so it's going to feel a little bit awkward, I think, for Infamous to get a fight going, especially without Ravage.
Man, you're mentioning for Hokori, might be a bit of a mistake to push their way up here onto Mariano, especially if Infamous are able to start rotating heroes over. They've got 2 in the west side jungle, and obviously KXY hanging out nearby, so this could sort of turn against them. That is sort of assuming, though, that Infamous are going to rush reinforcements over here, and as of right now, that's not exactly happening, so maybe they can make this play. Mariano does not have the Ravage up for another 20 seconds, only 1 point up in that Kraken Shell as well, and yeah, he's not getting away from this one. He's just going to get run down. Oh, okay, maybe not. Looking for the TP home, and he is going to be able to make it away.
Yeah, and if anything, they do need that on their team. That's a solution that will be fixed whenever they get the Aghanim Scepter on the Medusa. That won't happen very much, but without El Misho there, you don't have that instant disable without the Mars there, and that's where your lineup does sort of falter, because you really do just need to run at them, and Medusa.
Oh boy, that's a bit of a problem. Lumiere out of mana, very low on HP. The Winter's Curse will be deployed. That is going to get Angel into the fight. Can he go for the kill? No. Not going to be able to snatch it away from A, but that's still a kill onto the Medusa. That's exactly what you needed if you're Infamous. Can they get it? Yep. X comes in, into the Torrent, into the Ghost Ship. Actually, no Torrent, just the Ghost Ship. By the way, though, Gardic will be stunned up. Not dead yet, but okay. KXY was just waiting. Lining up the Tide
for that one.
So, 2 kills, 2 Infamous. A tier 1 tower taken for them as well. So, overall, that is pretty impressive. In terms of the towers, though, there is a bit of a trade-off. We saw Vitaly take the tier 1 down in that bottom lane, so that gold is at least going to even itself out, but that's still 2 kills to Infamous, and that is enough to actually swing things their way net worth-wise. First lead in about 8-9 minutes, thereabouts, so momentum is beginning to shift as Analog is going to get hit up here by the X into the Torrent, into the Sharpshooter hit, and there's the Ravage as well. This Bristle not going to be able to get away. Nice Ice Blast response from Gardic, but that's not going to be enough to matter.
And that's where we really need to be careful. It's the give and take, where now you've used your Ravage, you've used your X, you've used your Winter Wyvern ulti. You will have that one sooner than the others, but when do you make your plays? When do you decide to punish? Because this Mars, he did not go for that Blink Dagger rush. He's not going to be that Mars that we saw in that previous series, where he's going to rush that Blink Dagger, sort of starve himself for it, and then make plays where he'll still need to wait for a little bit more time. And while he will be able to sit in front of his towers and frontline a little bit more, you already have that. You had a Bristleback on your team, so I just hope that Hokori don't start stepping on their toes. And we see as soon as Angel gets to play top, all of the other heroes, they have to choose. Do they try to kill him and sort of catch him in the wave, or do they play around their Medusa? And that's when the openings are sort of forming for Infamous. Mid.
They're going to go for it. They are. X into Torrent, into the Ghost Ship. The Sharpshooter comes through as well, and Analog not dead yet. They're going to turn around with the Ice Blast, but A is going to be there to sort of shut that one down. Throws out the Winter's Curse. Obviously not the most effective in the world, but it keeps Vitaly out of the fight. So, not going to... Oh, okay. Not going to see too much. KXY, though, wants to go in for another X into the Torrent, but at that point, there's really no one there to follow it up. So, does a little bit of damage, pads the stats there in terms of the stun timer, but not going to be able to turn that into anything more than that.
The issue is you turn your entire team around to maybe support Analog, which gives more space to Angel. And while they will scout him out with this nice deep board they placed a very long time ago, they're going to try and get him underneath the tower, but I think Angel already knows.
Without the Blink Dagger, I don't know if Vitaly can really do this. He is going to give it a go.
Angel.
There it is. They get the arena down, but the Cold Embrace out from A. That'll buy some time. Ice Blast, though, does still come through. So the Luna is in a little bit of trouble. Can they actually get her out? No. Angel will be taken down. Vitaly going to be falling in exchange, though, but at that point, if you're Hokori, I think you got the trade you wanted, although the loss here of the Rubik is going to hurt a little bit more. KXY pulls him back in, takes him down. Double kill for the Kunkka, but you do still lose Angel. That is going to be a bit of a big deal for them, but KXY picking up both of those kills, well, I mean, he's certainly going to be happy with that one. The Kunkka now finally starting to maybe build himself up a little bit more momentum-wise.
And it's, if anything, a little bit of farm redistribution. It's unfortunate that he did go down there, but that was the first time Rubik was able to steal the Lucent Beam, and this Rubik hasn't gotten too many steals off this game, but there hasn't been too much game for him to steal. There's only really been 1 or 2 fights just yet, but now that he has the Spirit Vessel on the Kunkka, which really just depends. He does so much damage now. Oh, he stole bow.
Shell throws his own boat out there. That one's not going to be crazy in terms of effectiveness, but he does still have it, and he doesn't end up dying there. He got pretty low, but Rubik's able to fall back, but now Infamous is still pushing their way forward. Analog going to get hit up by the X into not a whole lot. As Gardic was able to throw out that Ice Blast defensively, that's going to sort of force Infamous to take a step back here, and it looks like it's a bit of a false alarm in that middle lane. Both sides were pushing their way forward just in case, but not going to result in an actual engagement.
Well, and while we see that, 4 heroes standoffish in the mid lane, the Luna farms and the Medusa farms, and we'll see what they both decide to go for. As I'm clicked on this Medusa. This is a different version of Medusa that we've seen today. Not going for the Mantis style into the Ags, instead opting for Dragonlance Crystallis. This is a very different Medusa buildup that we've seen.
And the S and Y just started off as well, so maybe a bit more of an immediate sort of fighting build for the Medusa. A bit more in the way of just straight up durability and damage, which could catch Infamous off guard here. The Luna is obviously building quite a bit, but if Angel's maybe looking for a slightly later timing and Lumiere can maybe speed things up a bit, I don't know. It doesn't really seem like the Luna's going to get caught all that off guard, though. You look at Angel's build as well, the mask into the Sanjin Yasha, BKB coming out next, so it's a relatively sort of fight-oriented build for Angel as well. Don't really think they're going to be too caught out by that Medusa's play, but
Gardic.
have to wait and see as Gardic will be taken down. Michael's able to find the kill. The ghost ship, though, coming through from El Misho is going to connect, but at that point it's really not quite enough to matter. But Infamous, they want to keep going. Get the X down onto Analog, pulling the Bristle back in. They hit him up with the Torrent as well. Can they keep him locked down, though? Yes, they can. The Ravage will come through. The arena was popped by Vitali defensively, though, so that is going to allow Analog to fall back, but that just means Vitali is going to get targeted himself, but they can't bring him down. Fight not done yet, though. That's an interesting Winter's Curse, and he will end up losing it. Amisha will steal it, deploys it onto the Luna, and this may be Hokori's opportunity to reinitiate. They're going to get the Ice Blast down. Can it connect onto multiple?
Oh, perfect.
Yep, there it is. Angel taken down, A falling as well. Mariano now in some trouble. No Ravage, obviously, to bail him out. As Hokori, honestly, that was pretty damn good. They sort of weathered the early storm there, the team fight power coming in from Infamous, but they didn't actually manage to finish any of those kills.
And if anything, they played directly into it. It was a really good Ravage coming in from Mariano. You were able to catch the Mars before he was able to get the spear off, so it felt really awkward after that happened. But again, they weren't able to keep the continuous damage on anyone. Their lineup just didn't have that much control after the curse was already expended, and there are no trees in the river. You aren't able to land the bushwhack, and you are able to put the Acorn shot down maybe, but it was just so split off in that fight. The Medusa just right-clicked down your only control aside from the big ultimates, and I mean, it makes sense why the fight went so south, but still, you can't be losing these fights, not with the lineup that you have.
Amisho getting himself into a little bit of trouble there in that south side jungle. KXY and Michael able to hit him up for a relatively simple kill, but that sacrifice does allow Vitali to sort of make his way out of that area. So Amisho's sacrifice will keep the core alive, and Hokori at this point, a little bit of gold lost, but they maintain the net worth lead. Not by much, but technically speaking, they are still ahead for now. Vitali pushing his way out in the middle lane. Still not working. Actually, wait, I believe, did he just finish off the blink there? Yeah, he did. Okay. Blink Dagger finished off, BKB queued up for him. So timing-wise, maybe not what we had been initially anticipating, but he does eventually manage to pick up that item, so the Blink initiation from Vitali could very well be the determining factor for some of these upcoming fights. We talked about this earlier, the fact that he was going to play such an important role here, trying to be that sort of initiator as Analog. Hit up by the X, into the Ghost Ship. Dropping low, but there's Vitali in with the arena, into the Spear Stun. The Ice Blast will come through onto the Luna as well, and Angel at this point just can't fight. He's going to, okay. He's going to try and go for anything he can. It's not going to be enough, though. Vitali will bring him down. Vitali, though, does still tick down to the Spirit Vessel. So that is going to turn that into a 1-for-1 for now. Hokori do want to keep going, but at this point, they can't actually catch up to anyone. Lumiere is not that fast. So A 1-for-1 trade on those cores, but it is going to go Hokori's way as they bring down the Luna once again.
And now, if you're Infamous, you need to wait for your BKB timing. You need to sort of dodge around these fights as much as possible. Mariano wasn't anywhere near that fight in the first place, and that's where we see sort of the issue with A versus Luna. You pop your Mask of Madness, you get in the middle of the fight, and oh, just running at the enemy team's Ancients.
X marks a spot there deployed onto an illusion. Fair enough, KXY had no way of knowing, but unfortunately with that X deployed onto an illusion rather than a hero, they can't protect those Ancients, as you said. The Bristle able to really just get most of them, and now they're pushing their way onto the tier 1 tower as well. So they're starting to win some fights. They're starting to take control of the map as well. That is tier 1's gone across the board for Infamous. Meanwhile, for the Infamous side, a single tier 1 tower taken in the top lane. So map control is going to become a rather sizable factor here moving forward as we start getting towards that sort of late game scenario.
Oh, and that's the issue of space, where it feels like the Tri-Core hasn't really been stepping on each other's toes, where Infamous, they were feeling pretty clean. They were feeling like after they sort of got the ball rolling in the top lane, they would be able to keep that pressure up on the Hokori side. But now, with this DD rune, I'm not sure. It feels like Hokori, they could take this game at their own pace. Everybody's probably thinking about their BKB timings now, though, especially with 2 cores closing in on them on the Infamous side.
Yeah, KXY getting pretty close. Angel, meanwhile, well, even closer. Neither one of them has them just yet, but as you said, they're probably going to just sit back, wait it out, try and get those BKBs and hope they can put something together here. But we do see a bit of a group up in this middle lane. Is this really going to turn into anything, though? Michael is holding on to a smoke, but I don't know if they're really going to commit for this. Angel really looks like he just wants to farm. He's not really interested in fighting until that BKB is done. And really, at this point, there's no reason to really rush that. You can save that smoke for later and just try to buy time for now.
Oh, and that's why you see sort of all of the heroes AFK in the mid lane hugging each other, because all the camps are farmed. There's nothing to do in the jungle. That's how efficient these teams have sort of gotten over the years, and double BKB will be sent out in one more wave that Angel needs to farm, and that's when we'll really see Infamous try to make this play. But again, Hokori can definitely turn the tables on them. While they're still working on their BKBs a little bit slower than the Infamous side, if those BKBs don't get off, if somebody gets kited out a little bit too hard, then the fight could completely flip, and that's when the game could really turn on its head. I think they also caught wind of one hero smoking with this ward, so they might try to dodge it completely, but Medusa's gonna break.
Here they go, pushing forward. Perfect target. Lumiere in some trouble. Where is the response? He needs his teammates in here, but Alisho? I believe he just stole the Eclipse. Yes, he did. Mariano, though, coming in with the Ravage. They're not going to care. They go straight in onto Lumiere. They will be able to bring him down, and now Vitaly in some trouble as well, just getting completely stun-locked there, as he will be taken down, and they want even more. They're in onto Analog. Can the Bristle keep himself alive? No, he cannot. That is a hell of a lot of damage. They get the Spirit Vessel onto him as well, just to keep him that little bit more contained. And really, if you're Infamous, that's exactly the fight you wanted. You wait, you get the BKBs, you push forward with that perfect timing, and now they have cleared the Roche Pit for themselves as well.
And if anything, that was just a perfect play. Angel, not a greedy bone in his body. He did lose the Eclipse, but was just eclipsed running at that Medusa, and while you were able to get the ultimate off on the Medusa, it just didn't matter at that point. You were too controlled up, and that's one of the big issues with this Kunkka hero is you have control for so long. Almisho.
The man is on the attack. He gets 1 kill onto A, but now he's got to get himself out of here, and that's not going to happen. So, I mean, he gets a kill. That's got to count for something. You take a look at the trade-off. It is going to favor him directly. The problem is, it doesn't stop this Roche. Infamous just keep on going. They take Roche down, and they will be able to get the Aegis into their hands. Now KXY, yeah, he is looking to push his way forward. BKB active, trying for the quick kill onto Gardic, but realizing he's not going to be able to get it, so he's going to have to back away. The Spirit Vessel wasn't enough. Gardic is able to live. KXY, meanwhile, was still hit up by the Ice Blast, so despite the fact that he TP'd back to the fountain, still no healing. And he does end up shattering.
It's sort of an unnecessary play. He was playing on the fact that he still had that Observer ward, an Observer that he ultimately did give away, so it's a little bit of a strange death for the Kunkka, but at the end of the day, what matters is that Luna has an Aegis. You don't need to worry about that objective now, and can again sort of go at their own pace and having the Kunkka versus Medusa, Medusa has to be so careful whenever she uses her spells, because if you pop the Stone Gaze and you're X'd, you're going back. It doesn't matter wherever you've ended up. You don't have a BKB in the works. So it's really up to Hokori to start finding some of these initiations. Vitaly hasn't really found those openings for quite a while now, in probably the past 5-6 minutes.
It has gotten a little bit concerning. We mentioned earlier on, though, with the not the BKB, excuse me, the Blink Dagger in his hands, there's a lot more potential, let's say, for Vitaly to sort of make these moves, but he got that Blink Dagger a couple minutes ago, and as you were saying, we haven't really seen too much from him. He's still contributing. 3, 3, and 7 is very much an impressive stat line for him, but if Hokori want to be able to sort of jump back out, re-establish one of these sort of prior leads that they had been holding on to, they need more, and Vitaly is maybe not the only one who's going to be able to sort of make those plays for them, but he is their #1 option at the moment. So we'll see if he can turn this around, but I want to see him get quite a bit more active.
Yeah, same here. He's the hero that really needs to get active as well, because El Misho, while he is trying to do as much as he can, almost to a crazy extent, unless Infamous are really putting themselves at risk and getting incredibly close, it really feels like it's incredibly hard for him to find those key steals. The best steal he could probably get is Ghost Ship, just because it's sort of thrown out there, whereas everyone else on the side of Infamous can really sit quite far back. Even A didn't have to expend Curse during any of that. He was feeling very comfortable with their positioning, and if Infamous can keep that positioning sort of solid, it's going to be hard for Hokori to find a fight. But Scotty on Medusa, that is something they can fight around.
Scotty up on Medusa, BKB now delivered out to the Bristleback as well, so those two main cores starting to build themselves up quite a bit more, although Analog at this point could probably do to build himself up even further. You take a look at him, he's a little bit further down that net worth chart than you would sort of initially expect, but your Bristle is relatively tanky right now. The damage is just going to come inherently over the course of that fight. Speaking of fights, though, Ravage deployed by Mariano. The Ice Blast is not fantastic, as Lumiere, oh my goodness, Lumiere just completely annihilated there. He has no means of surviving that fight. Analog, though, still up in it, but BKB is going to wear off, so he will be forced to retreat. Vitaly, meanwhile, actually caught out further to the west. He's going to get hit up by that Bushwhack, and Angel is able to bring him down as Luna picks up the double, and Infamous looked pretty damn good in that fight. Misho not really able to turn that around. He didn't manage to steal a massive spell there, but to a certain extent, you can't rely on the Rubik to sort of bail you out of that one. Hokori's positioning was a little suspect at that stage.
Well, and the issue is that Hokori's best shot is to break down Infamous. They need to get on the backline. They can't just keep on eating these spells, but instead, Medusa just gets everything poured onto her, and even trying to run away, just immediately gets X'd very simply from KXY, gets a Spirit Vessel, doesn't have a Mantis Style, isn't able to purge it off, nobody has a Lotus Orb, there's no easy Dispel, and you're just eating everything that Infamous are putting down, and as soon as you see these Infamous heroes playing on your side of the map, you know something has gone horribly wrong for Hokori.
Yeah, very much a situation where they should not be getting pushed back like this, but you lose those fights, you don't really have much of a choice. 2k up now for the side of Infamous as Angel. No. Trying for the tower. Lumiere will TP in though, and Angel at this point really doesn't want to mess with this one. He is going to back himself away. Initially it was just Lumiere, but we do see the reinforcements sort of trickling in behind, so probably the more prudent play for Angel. He just backs off. He's going to farm up in the top lane. So no real reason to put that Aegis in danger right now. It is going to be timing out in about 1.5 minutes, but if he loses it there, he doesn't have any backup anyway.
And having a Scotty of his own, it feels like he's outpacing the Medusa, and he literally is. And part of this is to go to the effect that Lumiere's build is, it feels strange. It feels a little bit alien for what we've seen Medusas do nowadays, and he does finally have that Mystic Stake mana gain talent. So if the fights do sort of supersede and go a little bit longer than Infamous can initially deal with, then the Medusa might start to gain some traction, but again, it feels strange. It feels very alien the way that this Medusa is being played.
Also worth noting at this point, we do see that Medusa now starting to queue up that BKB, so you mentioned it earlier on in that previous fight. The fact of the matter is they can't afford to let the Medusa just sit there and tank all those spells, but in case they're unable to fix that issue with their positioning, the BKB is at least going to keep them safe from some of that lockdown, so it's not a perfect solution. The best solution would be just to keep Lumiere away from those spells in the first place, but if they can't do that, at least they'll have some magic immunity to try and keep her up for longer. Yeah, Analog. Where's he going to go? BKB will be popped. The sharpshooter, though, is... okay, Michael fires that one off back towards the tower. That was a little bit weird, but the fight will go on. Vitaly pushes in, going for the arena, into the spear stun. Mariano, meanwhile, didn't actually commit the Ravage. He holds onto it, and they don't need it. Angel's going to be able to pop the Eclipse instead. Analog will be taken down. Lumiere, though, was able to get a kill further to the north. He brings down A, and now they're going to push their way forward.
Oh,
Luna. Oh, the Luna didn't have a whole lot to protect herself, but Mariano is in there with the blink into the Ravage. That's going to buy some time. Can the Aegis actually be used? Well, no, but at least he's not taking damage, so he is going to get the full regen there. So, Angel back up, ready to go. Infamous lose Michael. Hokori will lose the Rubik, but at this point, they really don't want to take this fight. Lumiere is falling back. Vitaly's going to try and create a little bit of separation, but Lumiere is still not out of this. Angel's pushing forward, going in for the initial stun. Nice spear, though, out from Vitaly. A, though, pushes his way forward. They're going to look to keep this fight going, but at this point, they're underneath the tower. This is going to get a little bit risky, as the Luna will be hit up by the Ice Blast. Does he have any way out of here? No. No BKB. He could try to TP, but Vitaly's going to be able to take him down. Angel will fall. A dead as well, and at that point, if you're Infamous, that just felt like you were going too far forward there. Diving a tier 1 tower. There's still 3 heroes alive. The Ice Blast was available again, and I think they just sort of underestimate how much damage their opponents could do when they turn.
And that was a 4v3 that they lost there. They felt really confident, but the Luna, she can't really approach the AA. The AA just put down as many Ice Vortexes as possible, simply hit them with the Ice Blast, and you're not healing. Without that BKB, you're a very vulnerable hero, and that's why we are not seeing him. Just be not a very smart idea at that point, but still, not respecting the turn, this game, it still could be anybody's game at this point. And with Roche respawning, maybe in a minute and a half, again, that's where we're going to see these teams refocus. But now Hokori, they've completely enveloped your side of the map, and I've got the Ags. It's queued up on Bristle. It's going to be the be-all, end-all, I feel like, again. And they're even going to prod the high ground.
Hokori, yeah, pushing their way forward. They feel pretty confident here, looking for that tier 3 tower, already starting to chunk through it pretty significantly, and if you're Infamous, where's the response right now? They don't have the Ravage, so they're not necessarily going to be able to just jump in there for the team fight. They just straight up have to let the tier 3 tower go, and Hokori just take their objective and leave.
And A wasn't feeling confident enough to maybe be able to find the curse, maybe be able to find a punishment of that sort. So, again, it feels like Hokori are really happy now. Before, it felt like they were really getting pushed around, especially with that Luna's Aegis, but it expires, the fight extends a little bit too long, and well, we have another Didia rune bottom, but I think both teams are really going to split their Roshan to respawn. Nobody can risk dying at this point.
Well, making their way up towards that top lane. This is a 3-man rotation. Mariano does have the... They could try to catch out Analog, but by that point, the Bristle, he's already fallen back. Not going to get caught out by that one. He will make his retreat, and he is going to be just fine for the time being. So it was worth a try. If you're Infamous, you make your way into the north side jungle. That frees up maybe an extra camp or 2 for them, but not going to be able to actually make the full-on jump there.
Well, and now having BKB, also an Elven Tunic on the Medusa, we're probably not going to see the Luna go back for that MKB, as when you're a carry, you never want enemy carry to always make that hard decision, because nobody really wants MKB nowadays. He's getting a Daedalus next on the Medusa, and that's when this damage is going to get really, really hard. AA is a good hero. You have to be very cautious with these core matches. Supersede what this AA can put out.
Just sort of scaring the Luna a little. Angel's just going to push his way forward. Lumiere's in some trouble. Can actually bring him down, though. This is not... coming in with the pause here. Apparently dealing with a little bit of lag on at least the Hokori side of things. So that will force out the pause. Hopefully this is just a brief sort of interruption. But it comes at a bit of an awkward time. Hokori are just looking to sort of plow their way through the high ground here, hoping for another tier 3 tower, potentially even a full lane of racks, although I don't know. It feels like Infamous may try to defend that, but with the Luna dead for 45, and as you mentioned, having purchased that Eagle Song does not have money for buyback. So this is going to be the full 45 that he has to spend on the sideline, which could mean Hokori have more of a window to push their way in.
And you don't have sort of those creep cut heroes. You aren't able to sort of make the space that you otherwise would, and it really feels like there's not much they can do. KXY is trying to get close enough, give his tower the Assault Cuirass aura, so that way it feels a little bit better, but again, no Shard. If he had Shard, he could push him off, he could tell him to get the hell out of here, but instead, it looks like they're just going to have to sort of sit here and eat it a little bit, but after the pause, Hokori feeling a little bit worse about their positioning, so they'll be a little bit more careful, but again, it's scary. Because with this Grove Bow as well, you're not going to get an easy curse. The radius isn't, I don't think, large enough to necessarily clip someone for free. But they're going to take the space instead. They're going to set up for Roche, and it will be respawning in 25 seconds, so they know exactly what's going on.
So, Hokori able to get in there. They get the tier 3 tower. Still no heroes under direct threat. Oh boy, hey. Oh, that's not going to work out. Cold Embrace was there to buy some time, but Almisha was able to come in with that quick Fade Bolt for the kill. Actually stole the Cold Embrace as well. Now,
and that's a really important spell to seal. If he can save maybe the Mars or something, they're trying to make a play in Analog, but again, Roche's respawned. This is going to be the convergent point of the map.
Looking to push their way in. Aegis Cheese and the Refresher Shard all available. Infamous, I mean, you've got to know that this is going down. The question is, do they maneuver in time to actually stop it? Luna is back up, but yeah, Roche is already dead. And the question is, who takes what? Lumiere will take the Aegis. The Cheese will be picked up by the Bristle. Did the Medusa take the Shard as well? Yeah, she did. Okay.
Medusa does have the Shard. And the Shard, while not having the Ags is what makes it feel even dumber, but it means that you're always able to get a snake out, especially versus the Luna. You're always able to get at least a glimpse of mana back, and at no expense of yourself. And got another freebie.
Wanted to get it onto Almisho. He was unbelievably close to getting that kill, in fairness to him. Almisho was just able to sort of buy that little bit of time, long enough for Vitali to get in there, but if you're the Hoodwink, honestly, I don't really know. Even if you do get that kill, that's one kill onto the Rubik. That's not a crazy amount to really work with, and you put yourself in a bad way on the other side, and now that Hoodwink's dead for 45, and there's Aegis and Cheese on the Hokori side, so you have taken yourself out of the equation just when Hokori are going to be looking to push their way further forward.
Well, and now Medusa, level 25, took the 75 in, even though he does have an MKB, but at the same time, finished MKB. At the same moment that this Luna has her Butterfly, you don't have that timing, and you see these heroes smoked up on their side of the map. I don't know how you really find a successful fight for this Medusa now, as I feel like their timing is almost past at this point. CKXY, he's queued up the Ags, he wants to get more of those chaotic spells, and well, if only Vitali knew, he's just walking into 3 heroes, but they can't jump him. They can't kill anyone, and there's still an Ags on the Bristle to be built. That feels like Hokori have really set themselves up for victory at this point.
Lumiere is just pushing his way forward, but over in the south side jungle, Angel gonna try and make a move. They jump in with the Eclipse into the Ravage as well. Amisho taken down already, Vitali dropping low as well, but he's gonna be able to drop down that arena into the Spear Stun, locking down the Tide. They hit him up with the Ice Blast as well. Mariano in some trouble, but well, they do manage to get off that Winter's Curse eventually. That is gonna slow up the Medusa at least for a time, but at this point, Infamous are just getting pushed too far back. They've lost multiple heroes. KXY, though, still fighting. BKB active. He's going to be able to take down one as Vitali will fall, and now Mariano going to be buying back, but at this point, there's no ult, and I don't really know how effective this buyback is going to be, especially with Angel now being taken down. Lumiere was able to push forward. The Luna is dead. There's no buyback really on anyone other than KXY, but they're going to keep going here, trying to get onto Analog. But as you said, the Chi is still available, so if he does need that sort of bailout play, it is going to be up for him. Lumiere, meanwhile, this man does not care. His teammates have sort of gone down around him. They've taken quite a bit of damage, but he will just keep on pushing his way forward no matter what, as he is getting onto that Rax. But while he's doing that, His teammates are getting jumped in on again. Gardic is going to get hit up by Michael, not able to bring him down. Analog, meanwhile, pushing his way forward onto KXY, and at this point, the Kunkka just has to leave. TPs himself back to base.
I don't know what you do now. You'll have Curse in 20 seconds, but aside from that, the Ag is here for Analog, and you'll have BKB in 7. He needs to be slightly careful about dying before that, but after that, I feel like they've just set themselves up. You still have Aegis on Lumiere. You're really able to do whatever you want at this point. KXY needs to be so careful. Misho is just stalking, prowling. There's a boat now on the Rubik. I feel it's so impossible for them to get into this fight again.
They need to try and find some sort of way back in, but as you said, no opportunities really presenting themselves. And now Hokori, they're just going to wrap their way around. They're looking for that final lane of racks as they make their way top. And if you're Infamous, you want to wait for the Luna, but by the time she's back up, this tier 3 could be taken down.
They need a curse. They need something huge.
Buying some time there with the Glyph. A looking for his moment. But at this point, Hokori aren't going to present this opportunity. Lumiere is pretty far forward, but no one else is around him. So if the curse does come through, it's really just going to hit exclusively onto that Medusa. And, well, he's got Aegis, so he's going to be right back up anyway. So at this point, it's looking rough for the Infamous side. They're trying to put something together. Lumiere is actually dropping pretty low here. And they are going to be able to burn through that Aegis, but now Vitaly's in. Going for the Arena into the Spear of Stun, locking down that Wyvern. As the Ice Blast will fly through as well into the Stolen Ghost Ship. A already down. Angel, though, going to be able to fall back with that BKB, but it's going to be wearing off in just another second or two. So at that point, he's not really going to be able to get himself directly into this fight. KXY in some trouble as well as they're trying to fall back to their fountain. Vitaly, though, blinking forward, going for the spear. They've caught out KXY. Can they bring him down? Yes, they can. Kunkka will fall. He does have the buyback, though. One of the only remaining heroes on the Infamous side with that buyback, but I don't think it's going to matter. And it will not. KXY is just going to get taken down again. Analog, though, a little bit too far forward. He will be taken down, but at this point, I think that might just be the end of it. Angel has fallen, and yeah, there's the GG.
And it's sort of a painful game, right? You sort of were in the hot seat for a lot of it. You were able to get these towers going your way. You were able to sort of play behind your Medusa, and then it just went wrong so quickly, so fast. I'm sort of sit here dumbstruck in my seat.
Corey, though, got to give him credit for it. It was a fantastic performance on their part, able to get themselves a pretty impressive win behind the Medusa. As we take a look at the graphs that for that game, Infamous were really right there for quite a lot of that match.
Well, and it was really just that second Roche just having to give it away. The real thing that started turning the cogs in Hokori's favor was that bottom dive. It just felt sort of meaningless, like it didn't really matter. You lost Angel, sure, but it felt like after that point, Hokori were able to get that bottom tower. They were able to get a little bit more gold up on their heroes that were otherwise sort of getting emaciated in their own side of the base because they needed to get that farm that they weren't getting. But after that, they just snowballed that one little lead into so much on their side. And this Medusa, I mean, I don't like the way that she built necessarily, but there was no way for Angel to fight toe-to-toe with her with that AA on his team. So if anything, he skilled perfectly for the game that he ended up being in. And, I mean, textbook play. Textbook from Hokori, even though it may be a different book than we're used to.
Right. Different sort of path, but they get to the end result well enough. Game 1 goes to Hokori. They get themselves their first victory of this group stage. Now, looking for an opportunity to turn this into a potential 2-0 sweep. We'll see how they can do. They were able to win their previous series matchup against Infamous, so back-to-back wins would certainly look nice for them, but Infamous going to have a chance to respond. Game 1 sort of swings out of their control there towards the back end of the match, but they're going to have a shot at redemption here. We'll see what they can put together for Game 2. So stick around, folks. Game 2 draft should be coming up in just a couple of minutes here as we await that second game between Infamous and Hokori.